Hello and welcome back to my 10 favorite people. Hope you're doing well. I know it's not popular to be cautious right now, and I know I'm going to receive pushback for doing so, but I'm going to do it anyway because although we've seen incredible ETF inflows the past 2 weeks or so, I'm seeing way too many investors convinced that these ETF inflows will continue at this elevated rate, even with Bitcoin now trading significantly higher. But the question we've always asked ourselves is what's going to happen to this front running the institutions narrative if these ETF inflows significantly slow down or even flip negative into net outflows? And now I know one day of outflows is not a trend, and I know a lot of it is due to grayscale outflows, and I know a lot of that money is probably just rotating into lower fee products. But we have to understand how fragile the market is when you have this steep of a parabola completely built on one narrative and what could happen if that narrative were to flip. And now I'm cautiously optimistic these inflows can continue. I'm not selling my Bitcoin here or planning to short Bitcoin, but there are signs of euphoria everywhere. We are on the verge of putting in our first $10,000 green weekly candle, something we weren't even able to do during the 2021 bull market mania that we saw. And of course, we are now over 50% extended from our 20-week moving average, which is funny enough, the same extension we saw for the 64K top that we had in April of 2021. We also have open interest at all-time highs, which means the amount of leverage and future positions are above April 2021 and above November 2021. But this isn't even just leverage in Bitcoin. We even have Dogecoin hitting record open interest at 1 billion, something it wasn't able to do in 2021. Even with all the hype surrounding it thanks to Elon, we now have open interest above those levels back then for Dogecoin. And of course, everybody is justifying it because they're saying institutions and ETFs are going to keep buying up all the Bitcoin so we can speculate and take as much leverage as we want because these inflows are going to bail us out. We also know the crypto fear and greed index has finally entered extreme greed, and I know it can stay at this level for a very long time. But we just have to remind ourselves where we are and how elevated prices and how steep this move has been and what could happen if we started to see a correction. And we got a tiny glimpse of that on Wednesday, I believe, when Bitcoin dropped 7% from 64K to 59K, and we saw 700 million in liquidations with just that small correction. And I'm concerned as to what could happen with open interest being at all-time highs if we were to see this parabola break and see a larger correction because of ETF inflows finally slowing down. And add to that the fact that the top 5 performers this week, without exception, were meme coins, and they're all up over 100% this week alone, showing that the market has gone right from the euphoria of Bitcoin breaking 60,000, skipping past all the other altcoins and just piling into meme coins directly, trying to front run the bull run. So thanks to meme coin euphoria, open interest at all-time highs, and how steep this weekly chart has gotten, I'm going to be incredibly cautious in the short term. That does not mean I am changing my positions. I don't plan on selling anything at these prices or trying to short the market, but I'm not interested in adding any exposure until we get a clear weekly close above the previous all-time high, or a correction where all this leverage can cool off. And maybe that can be catalyzed by a slowdown in ETF inflows. But of course, I'm still incredibly bullish in the long term. These ETFs are amazing for absorbing supply in the longer term. They are getting close to holding 4% of all supply. And of course, taking that supply off the market should do well for price. We do know the long-term cycle is still in play. And yes, we are ahead of schedule, maybe because so many people are aware of the halving narrative, and these ETFs are bringing in so much demand that we're ahead of schedule compared to previous cycles. And we're seeing that demand flowing into other major institutions, with Wells Fargo and Merrill Lynch planning to offer these Bitcoin ETFs to their wealth management clients because they've seen the success these ETFs have had and the amount of demand there is for them. But of course, those things are amazing in the longer term, but doesn't really help us in the short term when we are this overextended. It's also helped us that the S&P 500 has been incredibly bullish. It's overdue for a correction, but who knows where that might be. That might also be timed nicely with ETF inflow slowing down because institutions and retail traders alike buy these ETFs in their brokerage accounts where they have their equities as well. Maybe we will be even more correlated to the equities market now that so much demand and volume is flowing through these ETF products. And of course, the better these Bitcoin ETFs do, the better it is for Ethereum, which is expected to get its ETF in May. I know a lot of people don't think it'll happen, but I think BlackRock's track record speaks for itself. And it's nice that we have Ethereum now trading above its 618 Fibonacci retracement. We're also seeing decent strength by Solana. We really don't want to get back below the 120-ish level. We don't want this to end up being a false breakout and a rejection off the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement and the mid-level of the entire bear market. But of course, we're going to have to wait for the weekly close to see how that plays out. And I also find it very interesting that Ethereum and Solana got rejected at very similar levels. The close of the complacency shoulder is where they got rejected, and we saw the same thing from Solana as well. The close of the complacency bounce in the bear market is also where Solana is struggling as of right now. But of course, the main thing to monitor is Bitcoin dominance. It's still staying pretty steady. We really want to see it collapse if Ethereum, Solana, and other altcoins are going to outperform. But for now, I still think it goes higher in the short term because whether Bitcoin sees a major correction here or a huge move through previous all-time highs, you would expect that to be a Bitcoin-dominated rally. And that's why I haven't bought altcoins just yet. I do think there is a lot of risk here, no matter how convinced everybody is that we're in the clear and that we're guaranteed to go higher in the short term thanks to ETFs. As for macro, we're still seeing rate cuts get pushed out more and more and more. And I was looking at this chart that we've been looking at for quite a while where I overlapped Bitcoin's price chart and Fed interest rates. And we always talked about how the Fed pause historically was incredibly bullish. But of course, I completely underestimated how bullish the Fed pause would end up being. But of course, we're still on the lookout for something going wrong and the Fed being forced to cut rates. That's what called the top for Bitcoin in June of 2019. Is that going to be what marks the local top once again? Because we saw Bitcoin take off on the pause just like it did in 2019. And of course, the timing is a little bit different this time because that time the pause was in the pre-halving year. This time it's in the halving year. So of course, things aren't the exact same as the previous cycle, but I still think it's insane how crazy of a move we've seen recently and how clear that is when you look at the line chart and see how steep and how vertical this rally has become. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Let me know what you think. Are these ETFs going to continue at this elevated rate and continue to support the market even after such a steep climb? I think we're most likely going to see a correction very soon, and I don't think the inflows will remain this aggressive now that Bitcoin is above 60,000 in such a short period of time. But of course, we'll see what happens. We'll monitor it closely going forward. For now, not trying to short the market, not trying to sell my positions, not really interested in adding risk here. Just going to be patient and wait for opportunity. And if I end up being wrong and we teleport to 100K in March, I'll just be happy with the profits that I made on my existing positions, and I'll just wait for an opportunity to take advantage of the cash that I have on the sidelines. But anyway, thank you so much for the support on the recent videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.